وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى ما بعد. عن طلحة بن عبيد الله رضي الله عنه أن أعرابيا جاء إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثاثر الرأس فقال: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ماذا فرض الله علي من الصلاة؟ فقال: الصلوات الخمس إلا أن تطوع شيئا. فقال: أخبرني ماذا فرض الله علي من الصيام؟ قال: شهر رمضان إلا أن تطوع شيئا. فقال: أخبرني بماذا فرض الله علي من الزكاة؟ فأخبره رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بشرائع الإسلام. فقال: والذي أكرمك لا أتطوع شيئا ولا أنقص مما فرض الله علي شيئا. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: أفلح إن صدق أو دخل الجنة إن صدق. رواه البخاري. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters, as we all know, and as we just heard, that the month of Ramadan is approaching us. Less than 2 months away for this blessed month of Ramadan. So I was saying is that we all know that the month of Ramadan is closely coming. It's dawning upon us. The countdown has begun, right? And this month of Ramadan, it is the greatest month from amongst all the months. It is the greatest time from amongst all the times of the year. It has the greatest nights, right? This month is a month in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opening the doors of mercy, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is opening the doors of forgiveness. Right? It's like an open sale. Right? It's like how we have Black Friday. Right? Black Friday, when the sales go on, then we all focus and we all try to think about how I can take advantage from the sales that are going on. Right? And we start planning. And a person who really wants to take advantage, then they start looking at the news and they start looking at the papers and they start looking at what sales, what company is going to be doing what sales, because they want to take full advantage of it. Right? Because everything is at a discount. So similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this month is giving a discount to us all. Right? In this month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that you do a little, I'll give you a lot. You fast, all of your sins are forgiven. You stand in the night in prayer, all of your sins are forgiven. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an opportunity to clean our slate. Right? And this goes to show the kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. It goes to show the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for us. Wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this is the month that I'm going to wipe everyone's slate clean. Right? It's just a matter of us making a little bit of effort to take advantage of it. Right? We have to take that first step. And as long as we take that step, then we will be able to benefit from this month. And it will be a life-changing event for us, right? And that is when you want to see that did I benefit from the month of Ramadan, right? Then a way to determine that, right, is after the month of Ramadan, what was your condition? What was your spiritual condition after the month of Ramadan? 2 weeks after the month of Ramadan, what was your spiritual condition? Right? Obviously, everyone in the month of Ramadan, the spiritual condition goes high. Everyone goes on a spiritual high. After the month, you go down a little bit. But you have to see your condition before the month of Ramadan and after. What was your condition before? And what was your condition after? And as long as there was some sort of increase, then alhamdulillah, you have benefited. But if I'm going to be the exact same after the month of Ramadan as I was before the month of Ramadan, then I truly did not benefit from this month. Right? And you look at the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the blessed companions of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You look at the early pious, righteous predecessors, right? You see the importance that they gave to this month, where they would begin planning for the month, for this month, months in advance. They would start planning it from Shawwal of the previous year. Start thinking about, what am I going to do in this month? How am I going to benefit from this month? And we see that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself would prepare himself for this month, right? And when we say prepare ourselves for this blessed month, then what does it refer to? What does prepping mean? What does it entail? How do I prepare myself? There are different ways we have to prepare ourselves. Number one is we have to physically prepare ourselves for this month of Ramadan, right? Physically prepare ourselves. We have to spiritually prepare ourselves, right? Mentally prepare ourselves. In every way, we have to prepare ourselves for this month of Ramadan, right? The example that I gave in the last halaqah that we had was that this month, consider it as a marathon, right? This month is a spiritual marathon. You know, we have those 5-mile runs or a 10-mile marathon, right? That's a physical marathon. This month of Ramadan is a spiritual marathon, right? And in order for us to really be ready for a marathon, if I'm going for a 5-mile run, right? You ask me to run that marathon, I'm going to fall after 10 minutes or after 20 minutes. After a mile, I'll be dead and I won't be able to run anymore, right? Why? Because I haven't physically prepared. I haven't built that stamina, right? Just how in order for us to run that marathon, I have to build that stamina within me, right? And only if I work on myself, and that work takes, that prep for that marathon is sometimes months in advance, right? Those that run a lot or those that do these types of things, they know. You have to prepare yourself months in advance, not even just like a few days, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to complete it, right? You'll die, you'll lose your stamina way before, right? You have completed it. So similarly, this month is a spiritual marathon. And if we're not going to get our spiritual body ready, right? Then we will not be able to extract as much benefit from this month as we can, right? As we should. Because these months, right, this month, every second of it, it is the greatest thing. It is a gift, right? And I want to be able to extract benefit from every single moment of this month, right? Now, when a person runs a marathon, right, then he has certain goals, right? I have to be able to get to running 5 miles a day, for example, right? Now, many of us, if you ask us to run 5 miles, we won't be able to. But how do we get ourselves ready for it? Right? The way we get ourselves ready is that we see, how much can I do right now, right? We ask, how much can I do right now? Now, maybe right now I only can run a mile. After that, I'm finished, right? So then what I'll do is that I'll run a mile for a few days, get my body used to it, and then I'll increase it, 1.25 mile, right? And then once I get used to that, I increase it to 1.5 mile. And slowly, you increase until one day, after a few months, you're running 5 miles, right? So now similarly, we have to ask ourselves that, what goals do I have in this month of Ramadan, right? And we have to start thinking from now. Don't start thinking from a few days before. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would begin speaking about this month and thinking about this month from the month of Rajab, right? From the month of Rajab, he would begin speaking and talking about the month of Ramadan. The month of Shawwal, the month before Ramadan, he would fast a lot, right? And we'll study that. He would fast a lot in that month, right? Why? To get his body used to fasting, so that when the month of Ramadan comes, then when he's fasting, he's not going to be too physically tired, because he's gotten his body accustomed to fasting, right? So we see this from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we see this from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the Tabi'un, right? So now, the point that I'm making in this halaqah, what I wanted to share is how can we have to start thinking from now, right? Start making goals from now. Now, for example, one is, with the two most important things in this month is fasting and the Quran, right? These are the two most important things in this month. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ, that the month of Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed, right? So Allah is defining this month, and He's saying, what is so special about this month? The month in which the Quran revelation began, right? So we know the Quran has a special attachment to this month. And we know fasting, obviously, from this hadith and from very other ayat, right? And from other ahadith as well, right? There's two things. Now, in order for us to, let's say the Quran, right? How do I want to connect with the Quran? First, let's take our hisab and accountability and see that what is my connection with the Quran currently, right? What connection do I have with the Quran right now? Do I read the Quran every day? Right? That's step one. First, before that, do I know how to read the Quran? Can I read the Quran correctly? Right? Is my pronunciation correct? Right? Is my tajweed correct? Right? These are matters of importance. Right? And a person, only when he understands the value of the Quran in our life, will then he be able to take out the time and the effort, right, to learn these things, right? And ask myself, can I even read the Quran correctly? Right? So that's number one. Number two is learning how to read the Quran. Number two is actually reading the Quran. Right? Now, when it comes to reading the Quran, how much do I read every day? Am I reading every day? If I'm not reading every day, then I need to start right now. Right? Because when the month comes, and this happens to a lot of us, the month comes, the first few days, we're all in Josh, right? As we say in Urdu. We all have a lot of zeal and a lot of enthusiasm. And we do a lot, and we're reading Quran, and then after like 4 days, after 5 days, we're all bed, right? 10, 15 hours of the day, we're just laying down in bed and trying to just survive that. Then we start counting down. After the fifth day, from the sixth day, we start counting days. Okay, now I have 24 days left. Now I have 23 days left. Right? Why? Because we never got ourselves used to it. Right? Now, if my intention is to make one completion of the Quran in the month of Ramadan, which all of us should do, right? That's like the least that we should do, is make one complete recitation of the Quran in the month of Ramadan. That is the bare minimum. Right? That means I have to read one juz a day. How much am I reading right now? If I'm reading nothing, I need to get myself used to reading one juz a day by then. Right? Because if you're not used to reading the Quran, when you pick up the Quran after one page, you become tired and you can't read more. Right? So now this is number one, is reading the Quran. What is my connection right now? How much am I reading right now? And then I have to ask myself, how much do I want to read in the month of Ramadan? Right? What is my goal then? Because only if you set your goal then only you'll know how much you have to prepare. Right? Then you say, okay, I'll start off with 1 page a day. And every day I'll increase by, let's say, half a page. Right? If I'm increasing every day by half a page, then hopefully within 2 months you'll be accustomed, you'll get used to reading 20 pages a day, right? Or 1 juz a day. So this is number one, just reading the Quran. The number two is understanding the Quran, right? Reading translations of the Quran. What is the message of the Quran, right? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling me in the Quran, right? Making an effort to start making an effort to understand the message of the Quran, right? This is number two, right? And then number three is making amal on the Quran. Is practicing upon the Quran. Once you know how to read it, once you've understood the message of it, then the third objective is that I need to start practicing upon it. Right? Now when it comes to, and this is just for example with Quran, right? Now, and like this, we should have many other goals, right, in this month. What other goals, what other ways do I want to come close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this month? Maybe it's through tasbihat, right, making dhikr. Right? Maybe it's through helping others. And that's a beautiful way to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What will I do in this month where I can come closer? Because the maqsad and the purpose is closeness to Allah, is ridha Allah, is pleasure of Allah. Now what do I need to do to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What are different avenues in which I can earn the pleasure of Allah? Those that sat in the halaqah, in the last halaqah, we did 40 hadith. And how many ahadith we did in which we learned ahabbul a'mal, the most beloved actions to Allah. So now to implement those, we should be implementing those hadith from now. But now in the month of Ramadan, we know the tools, right? We have the formula. The formula is given to us of what are the ways for us to come closer to Allah. It's a matter of implementation. Right? Now another thing is so getting ourselves spiritually ready, right? Building spiritual stamina, right? That's something we should start doing. Another thing is physical stamina as well, right? What happens in the month of Ramadan? Our sleep is all over the place, right? It is all over the place. You're getting like 3 hours after Taraweeh until Suhoor. Then you're getting like another 2 hours after Fajr until you have to get up for work. And then you get like another 1, 2 hours in the afternoon if you're lucky, right? And then you start again and then restart, right? So getting ourselves, our physical bodies ready for this month as well, right? That let me start controlling my sleep, right? That from now you start that. Start thinking. Maybe you don't go into that schedule from now, but just start to try thinking about it at least, right? Getting my body physically fit for this month as well, right? Now, when it comes to physically fit, the most important thing is fasting. Now, when you are not accustomed to depriving yourself of eating and drinking, then what happens is when you start fasting is that you are unable to think. You are unable to do anything, right? Why? Because your body is not accustomed to it. So now we have to get our bodies accustomed to it. Now, how do we get our bodies accustomed to fasting? Is you start fasting. The other thing is we start looking in our lives, what are things that become hindrances for me to benefit from this month of Ramadan, right? What are those things that will become a barrier between me and making the most of my time, right? The biggest thing is addictions, right? Physical addictions, mental addictions, right? Whatever it is, physical addictions, for example, coffee, caffeine, right? That's a huge addiction that many people have, right? So now, if you just stop cold turkey first day of Ramadan, then what happens is the whole day you just at 3 o'clock, then your head just starts pounding, right? So then you have to start reducing your caffeine intake from now. Maybe you don't stop it altogether, but start reducing it, right? Another thing is smoking, right? Is that you can't now in the month of Ramadan and you are addicted to smoking or any of these things, any of these addictions, right? Physical addictions. Then it becomes very difficult for a person to benefit from it. So then you start making an effort, and this is the month. The month of Ramadan is the month in which we can destroy our addictions. We can stop all of our addictions, right, in this month. Another, not a physical addiction, is the phone. Usage of the phone, screen time. We always try to control our children's screen time, which we should, right? But we should also look at ourselves, right? How much how much time am I spending on the phone, right, on a daily basis? How many hours do I spend, right? A person came to me and he, with a lot of sincerity, he came and he said that, look, I'm trying to perform extra salawat and I'm trying to read a lot of Quran, but I just can't do it. I just don't have the time. I asked him, I was like, do you really not have the time? He's like, no. I was like, if you're okay, let's just look at your phone and look at the screen time, right? That little in the iPhone, right? A lot of people don't even know that you can check exactly how much time you've spent every single week, every single day. And you can even break down how much time you spend on every app. I showed it to him, right? And he said he was spending 2 hours. That phone showed he was spending 2 hours every single day on the phone, right? Now I was like, in those 2 hours, what are the things you could have done? You could have read at least 3 pages of the Quran. You could have read a little bit of Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. You could have read a little bit of tafsir. You could have made a little bit of dhikr. You could have done a little extra salawat in 2 hours. And let's say, don't stop it all together. Let's say you just cut it down to 1 hour, right? You could have accomplished so much in 1 hour, right? It's a matter of us taking, like, these are addictions and habits that it's controlling our lives and it's controlling our time, right? The month of Ramadan should be a month where we make an intention that we just completely shut off everything, right? That's a month that we shut off everything and our job is just ta'alluq ma'Allah. I was reading a book in which they say how the tabi'un and how the Sahaba would prepare this month. It was one of the Sahabi or one of the Tabi'un, I can't remember the name of him, but he says that I would spend my entire time his entire life was just in teaching, right? Learning and teaching, having halaqat and teaching all day. That's all he would do. Or he would be learning himself, studying himself. But he said the second the month of, or this, he said that once a few days before the month of Ramadan would come, he would close everything and he would be like, this is the month now only for me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For me to express and manifest my slavehood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he puts everything away. That was their passion. Their addiction, he had an addiction of teaching. The same way we have an addiction of the phone. These people had addiction. They had addictions. We have addictions. But their addictions were completely different than our addictions. Right? So the point is that we start thinking about these things from now. Right? And then if we even just start thinking about it from now, and then slowly implement things, make slow changes, right? You have 2 months to make changes. Another thing that we should think about, right, is that I was saying barriers for us to benefit from this month, right? Another barrier for us to benefit from this month is evil qualities, evil characteristics, right? And we had discussed many evil characteristics in the halaqah before the previous halaqah, the social media halaqah, right? And these are also things that will become a barrier for us to benefit from this month, right? What are evil characteristics? For example, you have pride, jealousy, right? Maybe it's maybe you have an addiction of looking at evil. You can't control your gaze, right? Maybe it's an addiction of backbiting, right? I gossip too much, right? Backbiting is haram. Gossiping with the intent of spreading discord is haram. It's not just not okay, it's haram. لا يدخل الجنة قتات. A person who spreads rumors, right? Who spreads rumors without verifying anything, without verifying it, or even if he has verified it. If it's a rumor about someone else, it is haram. You won't, Allah, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says you won't enter into Jannah. So if you're not going to enter into Jannah by doing that action, how am I going to benefit from the month of Ramadan? But if I'm still involved in that action, right? The purpose of fasting is to develop qualities within us. The purpose of fasting is to develop qualities. Sifat. What sifat? The sifa of taqwa, right? Being conscious of Allah. The sifa and the quality of sabr, being patient. Shukr, being thankful to Allah, right? And at the end of the day, controlling our nafs, controlling our desires, right? Discipline. This is something that we learn in this month. We learn how to discipline ourselves, right? And our nafs and our desires wants to do something, but we control it. We say, no, you can't do it. You're not going, I'm not going to let you do it, right? Why? Because of this month, right? And there's something unique about this month, very unique about this month, where people that have such crazy addictions, right? But when this month comes, those addictions get thrown out the window, right? And they're able to do it, right? Person who smokes a lot, this month, they just stop smoking for 15 hours. You ask him to stop smoking 15 hours any of the day of the year, he won't be able to do it. This month he does it. Drinks coffee, 5 cups a day. This month you won't drink a single cup. It'll be fine, right? There's something unique about this month, right? It's like how when I was coming on staying on the topic of disciplining ourselves, right? Dieting, we can all discipline ourselves, right? Because we all diet, right? Or to a certain extent, I'm sure a lot of us have tried diets, right? We understand the benefit of those diets, right? Because you understand, you tell yourself that I just need to do this for 3 months, 4 months. I need to lose this much weight. I need to gain this much muscle. If I put this much time in the gym and I decrease the calories and I decrease the sugar and I increase my physical activity and I start lifting weights and I do all of these other things, then within 3 months, I'll be able to get it. Right? Because they have a specific goal in mind, right? Your trainers, when they tell you, is that don't just start training and not have a goal, because you're just going to die out within a few days, right? You have to have this goal. Go with a goal in mind. Start with a goal in mind, right? Don't just start randomly, right? So that's how people are able to complete diets. For 2 months, they'll be on keto. Won't eat a single carb, not a single gram of sugar, right? Controlling counting the carbs that they eat, limiting the carbs, 30 carbs, under 30 carbs a day or whatever it is. It's not easy, but they do it because you see the benefit of it. So similarly, this month is a month of disciplining ourselves, right? Disciplining, just how that diet teaches us discipline. This month, fasting teaches us discipline, right? So I just wanted to give an intro to this month. I don't want to take too much time in the introduction. Inshallah, we'll start with the first hadith, and then inshallah we'll end off here. So this is a hadith that has been narrated by Talha bin Ubaidullah radiallahu anhu. He says that a Bedouin with unkept hair came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "O Messenger of Allah, inform me what Allah has made compulsory for me regarding the prayers." The Messenger of Allah replied, "Praying the 5 compulsory prayers of the day, unless you want to pray nawafil." Right? Nawafil are extra prayers. The Bedouin then asked, "Inform me of what Allah has made compulsory for me with regards to fasting." He replied, "Fasting the month of Ramadan, unless you want to fast more as nawafil, as extra fast, non-fard fast." He further asked, "Tell me how much zakah Allah has enjoyed upon me." Thus Allah's Messenger informed him about all the rulings, fundamentals of Islam. Right? The Bedouin then asked, "By him who has honored you," the Bedouin then said, "By him who has honored you, I will neither perform any additional nawafil, nor will I decrease what Allah has enjoined upon me." Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Successful is he if he is truthful," or he said, "He will enter into paradise if he is truthful." Right? So the point of this hadith is to show the fardiyat and the fact that fasting is fard upon us, fasting the month of Ramadan. So if we dissect this hadith, we see a Bedouin that's coming to the Prophet. And the Bedouin is asking, like, what is the least that I need to do? That's what he's asking. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, pray 5 times salah. If you want to do anything extra, do it. But 5 times salah you have to do. Fast in the month of Ramadan. Anything extra, go for it. But this is what you have to do. Right? So he's asking, what is the least amount that I need to do? And this is what's compulsory. Right? And this is what shows there's this verse and this hadith and many other ahadith and verses, not many, but verses of the Quran which show the wujubiyat and the fardiyat, right? The fact that fasting in the month of Ramadan is fard, it is not optional, right? And we have to fast unless we have an udhr, unless we have an excuse for fasting, right? Unless we are excused from fasting. And the excuses of fasting, inshallah, we'll learn in this halaqah. So what we'll discuss in this halaqah is we'll discuss these ahadith, and then we'll also go into the fiqh of fasting. This is one of the things that I want to go into a little bit depth in, because it's important to learn the rulings of fasting, right? Because fasting is one of the most important aspects of the month of Ramadan. We need to make sure we're doing it correctly. And this again, have I ever learned the rulings of fasting? Do I know what breaks the fast, what doesn't break the fast, what to do in different scenarios, right? So inshallah, this is something that we'll learn in this halaqah as well, right? Now, one question is that at the end, he says that وَالَّذِي أَكْرَمَكَ لَا أَتَطَوَّعُ شَيْئًا وَلَا أَنْقُصُ مِمَّا فَرَضَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. He says that, look, I'm not going to do a single thing more than this, but I'm not going to do anything less. Meaning, I'm not going to perform any extra nawafil. I'm not going to fast anything else besides the month of Ramadan. I'm just going to do this much, right? And what was the reply of the Prophet? The reply of the Prophet was that if you are truthful in what you say, you're good, right? You're good. So now a question arises: is that does that mean we shouldn't perform, or we don't need to perform nawafil and all of that, right? So this hadith, the point of this hadith is not to show that, right? The point of this hadith is, number one, to show the fardiyat and what is compulsory, for a person to know exactly what he needs to do, right? Now, if a person only does that much, if I only do the complete the fara'id, and I don't do anything else, then yes, that person will enter into Jannah, but there's an additional condition. What is that condition? That you stay away from the disobedience of Allah, right? Which is why a lot of scholars in this day and age, they say, right, that say that, look, don't try to do too much. Just do the minimum, but most important is stay away from the disobedience of Allah. Because staying away from the disobedience of Allah is fard, right? It is fard. Doing nafal, doing extra prayers is nafal, it is optional, right? So what happens is we tend to do a lot of nafil, focus on nawafil. Focus on, I'm going to give extra, I'm going to read extra Quran, I'm going to read extra salawat, I'm going to make extra fast. But at the same time, what we're doing is we're being involved in the disobedience of Allah. We're engaging in the disobedience of Allah. Understand that at that point, you're just canceling each other out, right? You're not really benefiting. And hopefully, inshallah, those nawafil will be a means of your cancellation of the sin that I'm committing, right? But you're not really benefiting from those extra nawafil, right? So if you were to just do the fara'id and not do anything else, but you're staying away from the disobedience of Allah, then that's it. That's enough for a person. And in this day and age, that's more than enough. I'm not discouraging anyone to do extra. We should do extra. But understand, what do I need to give importance to? Right? That's what do I need to prioritize? My focus should not be on nawafil, on extra things, if I'm not doing what I need to do. Right? First get what I need to do done, and then thereafter let me then do the extra, if I have the ability. So staying away from the disobedience of Allah will always take the priority over anything extra. Right? Now, you can also balance yourself, right? You shouldn't, that just because you're involved in the disobedience of Allah doesn't mean that you don't do extra nawafil, right? You have to simultaneously stop the disobedience of Allah and at the same time continue that nawafil, right? But this hadith is teaching us prioritization, right? What do I need to prioritize, right? And this is the priority of a believer is fulfill the fara'id and staying away from the disobedience of Allah. And this month of Ramadan is a month in which we're going to learn. This month teaches us how to stay away from the disobedience of Allah. So again, we start thinking about it from now, but we have to make it. If I'm telling you, if I start thinking about it from now, you'll see how much more benefit you'll get from the month of Ramadan, and you'll see how after the month leaves and is completed, how much change there is in your life, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be the month will come, the month will leave, and our conditions stay the exact same, and that is not what we want. Right? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to practice. Inshallah, in the next class, we'll do, there's virtues of this month, and then thereafter, there is the ahkam as-sawm. So we'll go through, inshallah, and these ahadith, I'm not going to only focus on these ahadith. These ahadith will just be a base. Inshallah, we'll have lengthier discussions in matters that are very important for us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to practice. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. If anyone has any questions, inshallah, you can ask. Yes. At this moment, you're not taking because. Oh yes. So the question is that the hadith is speaking about fard and nawafil, right? So now the question is the hadith doesn't say anything about sunnah. So now does that mean that it's just like, why isn't it speaking about sunnah, right? So simple answer to that is that we're speaking about what you need to do, right? Now a sunnah is not something that is fard upon you, right? So if I don't perform a sunnah, right, I leave a sunnah, then I will not get a sin for that. Now, that doesn't mean that I leave sunnah because it doesn't mean that we don't perform sunnah, right? We should, right? But, and if you continuously don't perform a sunnah, then that turns into a sin, right? You have to see what reason. But the point of this hadith is just showing the least amount that you need to do, right? Now, the least amount is just fard. After that, everything else is nafil. Everything else is extra then. Because it's literally Islam is just fard. You have to do it or you don't have to do it. There's nothing in between, right? Now, wajib, that's also a term that certain fuqaha use. They'll say that fard is one, then wajib is below, then sunnah is below that, right? So now where does wajib come in between? First of all, wajib, the concept of wujub or of something being wajib, This is not in every fiqh, right? It's not in every fiqh. And those fuqaha that have accepted this concept of something being wajib, wajib means the only difference in something being fard and wajib is that it comes to believing. It has to do with your belief, right? So now, for example, if something that is fard in Islam, if I don't do it, so when it comes to fard, is you have to believe that it's fard, and you have to actually perform the action. So now, if someone disbelieves in a fard action, and they truly believe, they say that, you know what, this is not fard. This is not Asr Salah is not a part of Islam. Someone who says that, their iman is at stake now, right? Because it is compulsory for a person to believe in these things, right? Now, when it comes to wajib, an act that's wajib, the differentiation that the fuqaha make is that a wajib is still fard to act upon, but is not fard to believe in, right? Which is, I know it's pretty much the same. So it has to do with aqidah. It has nothing to do with amal. And this is a misconception that a lot of people have. That's the same thing with haram and makruh tahrimi, right? Just because something's makruh tahrimi doesn't mean it's okay to do. It is still haram, right? It has to do with the belief. And then another thing that it has to do with, one is belief. The other thing is the way that the thing is proven, right? So a fard, for something to be established as a fard, you need two things. It has to be qat'iyyu dalala and qat'iyyu thubut, right? So there's qat'i. Qat'i is a proof that is extremely strong, right? It's something that's very firm. That's literally what it means. Qat'iyyu thubut means that the authenticity of the dalil that you're using to prove something as fard is extremely strong, highest level of authenticity. And then qat'iyyu dalala means that the meaning also is extremely clear. There's no possibility of any other meaning, right? Aqimus salah, establish salah. It's very clear. There's no possibility of any other meaning of that, right? Now, in wujub, for something to be defined as wajib, what the scholars say is that one of the dalail might be dhanni. Dhanni is a term that the fuqaha use and the muhaddithun use that means that there's a little bit of doubt. There is an assumption that's been made, right? So now, for example, is that for something to be wajib might be qat'iyyu thubut. It's the highest level of authenticity. What is the highest level of authenticity? Is the Quran. It's being established from a verse of the Quran. But the verse could have multiple meanings. So now, because it can have multiple meanings, it's not qat'iyyu dalala anymore. It's dhanniyyu dalala. And because there's a little bit of assumption that's being made, then we're going to say this is not fard, this is wajib, right? But you still have to make amal on it. So that's the reason. This is just saying what you have to do and what everything else is on the other side. Sunnah is part of that, yes. You could understand it like that as well. Yes. Oh, sorry. I'm always forget to repeat the question. The question is that can we understand this hadith to say that this hadith is specific to this person, right? And it's not specific to anyone else, right? So now that assumption can be made. And if you look at the commentary of this hadith in Bukhari, that is the assumption that scholars make. And they say that this is just specific to him. But then the question arises is that does that mean that there's specific, if someone else does this, will they not get the exact same reward? And then if not, then why? What did he have? What was specific about him that he didn't need to do anything else extra, but everyone else did? Right? That's the reason taking extracting that meaning from this hadith, it becomes a little problematic because then you have to explain why is it specific to him. Now, there can never be a ruling specific to only one person, right? Meaning specific to the person. It can be specific to a quality within that person, right? That's fine. So then we have to extract what quality was it. wasn't it? Maybe he was a new Muslim, right? That's possible, right? Another thing is Bedouins were just different, right? They were just different, right? They were, I don't know what the word is. I don't know how to describe it, but they were just different from people that lived in the city. And you look at when when they would come to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he would speak to them differently as well. They were very simple-minded people, very simple-minded people. Yes, right? It's like, you know what? Like, this is what he's saying. He's like, listen, don't tell me anything extra. Just tell me what I need to do and nothing else, right? So they were very simple-minded people. So when you're speaking to a simple-minded person, then sometimes you have to do this, right? You have to explain this. Yes. Okay, so the question is that in regards to preparing for the month of Ramadan, is that I should fast, right? So it's easy. The question is that it's easy for me to fast on Saturday and Sunday. But then the brothers heard that it is not permissible or it's not allowed. We shouldn't fast on Saturday, right? So now and the question is what should I do, right? Because obviously weekdays is difficult, right? So now when it comes to fasting outside of the month of Ramadan, right, and outside of Friday, every day is okay. Now, the reason why the scholars say Saturday you shouldn't fast, that's only when you specifically fast every Saturday, right? So you're like, you know what, every Saturday I'm going to fast. That you should not do, right? Because there's tashabbuh with other religions, right? So now what you should do, if you're going to fast any day, like every single week, you're going to choose a day, then choose Monday or Thursday because that's sunnah, right? Or the 13th, 14th, 15th of every month, that's sunnah. But other than that, if you're just fasting for the prep of fasting, then that's fine. Because your niyyah is not that I'm like restricting myself to Saturday. I'm just doing it Saturday, Sunday because it's easier for me, right? I don't think there's any problem in fasting on Saturday, right? Friday, with the intention of preparation, it would be okay. Why? Because Friday, if a person has the habit of fasting on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every month, and those 3 days somehow in one month falls on a Friday, then it would be okay for you to fast. Because you're not fasting on Friday specific. You're fasting because it's the 14th of the month or the 15th of the month, right? So similarly, if you're fasting with the intention of prepping for Ramadan, right, and there's really no other day that you can, then yeah, fast on Friday. But it is something that you should avoid doing, though, because there are clear hadith that indicate a prohibition of fasting on a Friday. A Friday, yes, yes. Saturday, there are ahadith, right? But the reason of those hadith is also pretty clear, right? I don't know the authenticity of those hadith. I'm not off the top of my head. I'm not sure aware of. But Saturday, the reason is because of the tashabbuh, is because you're going to become like people of other religions, right? And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, he's coming to Medina, right? So he needed to establish and to distinguish and make a distinction between the Muslims and non-Muslims, right? Which is why he was like, don't fast on this day. Inshallah, I think that'll do it, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to practice. We'll see everyone next week, inshallah.